So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Nicky Voase, who's director and owner at QAD Architects. So, Nicky, firstly, thank you for coming on board. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, QAD Architects, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to have a chat with yourself. As you said, Nicky Voase, I'm a director and an architect at QAD Architects. We're based in Leeds. We're an architectural practice which has just come into its 20th year. So, founded by Paul Wainwright and Ian Bryant, my fellow directors, 20 years ago. And yeah, we're going strong at the moment, which is great news. We work in a number of sectors. So, residential is one of our key areas that we work in. Ian and myself head that up. But we're also heavily involved in healthcare with primary care centres, acute care as well, and also commercial buildings. So we cover quite a wide range of projects within the office. There's 10 of us in the office at the moment, so we've got a really good skill set of people, yeah, we work well together, and it's quite a nice environment to be involved in. To be honest, it's we like wherever possible, we try and sort of give some added value to clients. We've worked with a lot of our clients for a number of years. We get repeat business, so we like to pride ourselves on doing a really good job and giving clients what they need at the end of the day.
Brilliant. And what would you say makes a great client for you? You know, the ones that you know you can really help, and and the easiest, the best and easiest ones to work with for you as well.
It's clients that are receptive to comments, I think, more than anything, and are happy for collaboration. That what one of the hardest things of our jobs is that we often pulling together lots of different disciplines in terms of it's not just ourselves on a project. There'll be engineers, there's landscaping now, particularly as well, biodiversity, other disciplines that we've all got to work together to get the best solution for a scheme, and that doesn't depend just upon one person. That's on everybody. But at the end of the day, you need a client who's receptive to sort of listen to that, and we pride ourselves on listening to other people as well. That's part of our kind of mantra, is that we do listen to
Brilliant.
people, and you do have to take on board comments, and then you can work together, build a proper project, and hopefully get the best out of it for everybody.
Wonderful, wonderful. So Nicky, if we start at the beginning, as they say, could you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be an architect for as long as I can remember. So,
Brilliant.
yeah, whether it started with Lego, I'm not quite sure, but I was, yeah, definitely enjoyed Lego building from a young age, drawing. So, from a young age, I've always known that I wanted to be an architect, and that was the career path I wanted to
Brilliant.
follow. If I'm honest, in my early days, I'm not sure I wanted to particularly be a business owner or felt that that was something that I could do, but as I've sort of gained more experience within architecture and certainly within QAD, it's almost sort of naturally developed. And I think that's a lot to do with the support that you have from your colleagues around you and just learning from experience as well. It's one of those things that, as architects, you don't necessarily say, right, I'm going to run the business, I'm going to lead, but sometimes that's just how it's progressed. So I joined QAD back in 2008. A few years after it had been, or about 3 or 4 years after it had been set up by Paul and Ian. So it was quite a young company at the time. I'd worked with Paul and Ian previously at another practice in Leeds when I was doing my training as a year out student from university. So knew them, knew that I could work with them. We worked well together, and I think that was where it stemmed really. Sort of, there wasn't really any reason to have left the practice I worked with other than that this offered different opportunities, that's all. So at the time, newly qualified, decided to give it a go and joined Paul and Ian at the company. And then obviously got involved in numerous different projects, working on healthcare schemes was one of my first experiences there. And that it naturally just kind of developed then as we grew as a business and becoming an associate a few years later, and now being a director at the company, and yeah, helping sort of pave the way forward for hopefully the next 20 years. So
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, well, congratulations. You may or may not be aware of the stats, which unfortunately for the business survival and failure stats are pretty stark, which is most 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years of operation. and of the 20% that survive, another 80% fail in the following 5 years. So to
Right.
get to
Yeah.
10 is 4%. I don't know the stats for 20, funnily enough. Somebody challenged me because, as I think I mentioned earlier, we've completed 20 years in my organisation, and I don't know the stats are for that, but they will be quite small. So very much congratulations. That in itself is worth celebration. And looking backwards, what are some of the sort of biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
Um, I think it's adapting to changing circumstances. Construction has its ups and downs. There's always an element where at some point, at the moment, residential is really buoyant for us. It's a really good sector to be involved in. We're really proud to be working in the residential sector. But it's equally had its points where there's not been so much
Yeah,
work going on. So it's being adaptable in terms of having a good client base, trying to put yourself out there and make sure that you've got the expertise within those sectors as well to feel confident that you can deliver the project and the scheme that clients want. Also, just looking at technology, working smarter.
yeah,
Sometimes things have changed a lot in the last few years with the way that we actually deliver our project. The
right.
end, looking at a piece of paper, you wouldn't necessarily know it was done differently, but technology is changing all the time, and it's helping us to work more efficiently. So, it's looking at those sorts of challenges where you've got to kind of learn on the job at the same time as doing the job itself.
I can imagine things have changed significantly over that period of time. And obviously being adaptable. And would you say, I guess you've got a diversity within your business of resi, commercial, and other things. Do you think that's helped during? We've seen lots
Absolutely.
of ups and
Yeah.
downs over the last sort of 20 years or so.
Yeah, to be able to not rely wholly on one sector and say, look, if a job slips and slides a little bit, we've got some scope to explore other avenues, or you're already working in different sectors anyway. To have that spread across a number of sectors is really helpful, and it's really important actually because I think it's that diversity of projects that keeps you interested as well. It's within our office we do a lot of what we call talky bits, and it's often where we just sat around a table and it's giving everybody an update as to where we are on a project, what's happening, how we're looking to deliver it, a bit of a design workshop as well at times. And even if you're not directly working on it, actually, it's really interesting just to have a bit of a break from what you're doing day to day and get stuck into some other bits and pieces as well. And, that it is diversity and kind of a spread really that helps, I think, to keep the interest because every day is different, even if you're working on the same sort of sector stuff, never one day is the same. But
Yeah,
it's nice to see other things within the office as well that we can be involved in and also delivering different types of buildings for the community. It's really rewarding actually.
wonderful, wonderful. And what would you say are the biggest things you've learned about growing a business?
Um, Talking, I think, in the sense of there's three directors, Ian, Paul, and myself, and I think it's having open conversations about when times are tough,
Yeah,
when you have a difficult conversation, if you pick up the phone and something's not quite going right, or we need to have a chat. It's being open and I suppose honest with each other as to when you need to have a chat. Can we have a sit down? Can we have a talk over these bits? And that just sharing your worries, I suppose, in some respects is really helpful. And often you'll find as well, I suppose, in other companies they have the same issue. So also sharing that knowledge of highs and lows with other practices and other disciplines as well is really useful because we're not alone in the
no,
business of construction at all, but often we don't always share some of the highs and lows that we do have, and
yeah,
things like this I think are really quite useful actually, just to be open and honest about, it's not always easy, but if you can have a frank conversation with somebody and just talk it through, often you can find a solution to the problem or work through it. It might still not be very easy, but you can get through it and keep going.
brilliant. And I think I remember reading some time ago that it's really interesting that the brain actually fires up about 34% more when we talk about things than just think about them, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So the act of talking not just is useful from a sharing of ideas, but actually we think better when we talk about an idea, not just Um,
That's probably true. Yeah, and that's maybe that's why we do our little design workshops and things like that as well. You're getting it out in the open. No idea is a silly idea. If somebody's got an idea, just put it on the table and let's have a chat about it. So, and there's always more than one way to solve a problem, but unless you talk about it and get it out there with somebody else, you can stew on it a bit too much, and that it becomes a mountain rather than a molehill. So,
Absolutely, absolutely, and it is breaking through because once we've set our mind in a particular pattern, it is actually difficult to think out of that.
yeah,
So having someone ask us questions or just, as I say, just give us different ideas is so important to break
yeah.
out that cycle. And I think you're very aware we're a business coaching organisation, so I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
Oh, I'd say it's probably a range of people, to be honest. Because I think, again, different people you meet give you different things throughout your whole life, and
Yes,
there's lots of people that I would credit with where I've got to now, to be honest. Even if it's family members that have helped you kind of push you forward and say, yeah, no, go for it, give it a go, keep that momentum going. To tutors at university, colleagues that I've worked with at first
brilliant,
practices where, we working in different sectors, worked on railway schemes, that sort of thing in the past, and their experience, their kind of knowledge as well of sharing that has been really useful because, without sharing that knowledge, you're never quite sure where to go. And I think in my earlier days at university, tutors, friends, and I think that's it, friends and colleagues still at the moment that you've trained with, you're still in contact with, are really good. And that goes with Paul and Ian as well. I met them when I was training at university. We've, really strong relationship in terms of three directors at the company. And
brilliant.
in terms of becoming a director and company, leading the company forward, they've definitely helped to sort of build my confidence in
Brilliant.
terms of being able to lead as a manager. And as I say, I'm not sure it was ever in an original life goal, but actually I'm really pleased with where it's come to. And
Brilliant.
it's quite exciting the next few years as to how it can develop as well. I think that's the other thing, is always looking for different opportunities and how it can change your life. I don't think I'd never had a set idea other than being an architect, really. So to be a business owner and business leader is yeah,
Brilliant.
quite something as well. Quite proud of that achievement for myself. But yeah, I think it's about the people that you meet along the way. There's all sorts of different individuals that help to build confidence, experience, but also, share their knowledge as well, which is really important. And I think it's really important for us to keep doing that as well, because, mentoring other people through. It's sometimes we can be a bit insular in some
Yeah,
ways if we don't understand that, our experiences can help people to thrive as well and come
yeah,
on.
100%. It's just and often just telling our story, and then people sort of can pick things out of things. It's so valuable. And do you have any favorite quotes or sayings that you catch yourself using quite regularly?
Ooh. Um, I'm not sure if I do as such, but I mean, I suppose in terms of architecture, it's all things like the devil's in the detail, and I suppose that's for business as well. But certainly, when we're doing a design, sometimes you're looking for the simplicity and making it look elegant and everything else. And same for business, you're trying to make it look sleek and really refined, a really finely tuned business model that you've got. But to actually get to that can have a lot of hidden work and detail that's involved that is never going to necessarily shine through. But there's a lot of background work that needs to go in. So yeah, that's sort of, I suppose, one of the things that I would say is not necessarily a quote, but just something that
Yep,
I suppose comes through when we're working. It's that background work that takes place to make something really shine and look elegant, sleek.
absolutely.
Yeah, get the fine result.
Yes, no, and you bang on. It is, it's through big picture through to small detail. It's we need the big picture thinking to see where we're going, but we also do need to put our head down and just check, is the now the right thing? Is the next step going to work correctly on that
Yeah.
big journey? And do you have any favorite books on business success, personal development that you would typically recommend?
I don't at the minute, I'll be honest. I I kind of I read lots of different things, but at the moment I'm actually reading a Mary Porter's book about women, and
Oh, cool.
so at the moment that tends to be my favourite one because it's just looking at how women can promote themselves in their sectors and that sort of thing, and work smarter as a woman, that sort of
Brilliant.
thing. So,
Brilliant.
but I must admit I'm only part way through, so I'll watch this space.
She was great. She presented at one of our business conferences a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
Really,
did she?
really fascinating woman. Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah,
I'm sure there's lots of gems in there for sure.
yeah.
And speaking of learning, Nicky, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
Um, there's myself. I think it's that actually, I'm quite a hard worker, I suppose, in that I'm not shied away from hard work. It's, our profession is something that takes time to get qualified in the first place.
Yes.
But I think as well, not to beat yourself up too much sometimes. You can be your own worst critic. And sometimes that can almost not not put too much pressure on yourself, really, I suppose. There's an element of
Yeah,
you're doing well, you're doing okay, and that's hard to see when you're in the thick of it and getting stuff done. But actually, when you step back, it's quite good to just have that little bit of reflection and go, actually, we did do a good job there, and or I did do a good job. And I suppose it is that not being too hard on yourself, really. Just do the best that you can. And generally speaking, if you've got that kind of ethos of you want to do the best job you can, it'll turn out right. You're not going to mess up with a client or on a project, but equally don't be too hard on yourself.
100%. Self-talk is very powerful, and unfortunately, most people tend to choose negative self-talk above positive self-talk.
Yeah, no,
But
definitely.
why would
Yeah,
we want to do that? We wouldn't. We often wouldn't do that with other people. We wouldn't want other people to do that to us, and yeah,
yeah,
we tend to do it ourselves. And it's I find it's trying to turn that into positive self-talk is so powerful. Uh,
yeah.
and a big
And I
part of
think that helps with the support of people around you as well. The coming back to whether or not you're a business owner or not, it's not something I thought of doing, but with people saying actually you can, and realizing that some things that you're already doing are actually
absolutely,
contributing to leading the business without knowing it directly, you were already doing that work and you're already
yes,
moving things forward. It's somebody just sometimes going, you can do that. You've already done that. And you do need a bit of external kind of influence, I suppose, but that sort of pep talk from people sometimes is really good to go, you can do it. And then you realize
absolutely.
yourself, actually, I've learned quite a lot in the last few years. I've changed a lot. Quite, years ago, I would never dreamt of gone and done networking. It scared the life out of me. And now you just go, it's just part of what we do. But
Absolutely.
from a young professional coming into it, it can be quite daunting. And that's the sort of things, that are business related and not just your profession, in that you do have to go out there and network with people, talk to people. And I suppose it's that building of your own confidence. Like you say, you've got to somehow build yourself up. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, as I say, we tend to be our own worst critic, I think you said. So it's often useful, I find, is to seek the evidence. What's the evidence from
yeah.
that supports that belief? And that's where talking to colleagues, people around us, what do you think? Well, you're doing a great job. Oh, great. Okay, maybe I could choose to believe that rather than
Yeah.
the nag on our shoulder that tells us different. So I think earlier you talked a little bit about the future. I'm keen to know what the future looks like for you guys and what challenges you might face, if any.
Um, I think the future for QAD at the minute, we're looking at again at continuing to diversify. We'd love to get into more sort of different sectors, include, related to what we do already, but care homes, that sort of thing. So really looking to try and keep keep our core clients as we've got at the moment and retain that business, because that's really important to us, that we do retain the quality, but also look to improve the quality again in terms of how we work with clients, what we're providing as a service, the types of buildings that we're doing, and care homes, that sort of stuff would be great. Equally, I'm a passive house designer, so I'd love to be able to get a passive house scheme off the ground. That would be something that I'd really like to do. We do a lot of sustainable design in what we do day to day anyway, but to be able to actually get a passive house scheme underway would be sort of the icing on the cake in the next few years for me, if I'm honest,
Oh,
for a personal aspiration. So yeah, that would be really good.
now, just help me here. So, a passive house. What's the definition of a passive house for myself and anyone else that might be interested?
So Passive House it's a German accreditation, but it's worldwide now in terms of how you can apply the rules effectively. But it's making a enhancing the building fabric and the performance of a building so that you rely on very little energy
Right.
use and heating, basically. So it's all about passive measures in terms of
Yeah.
heating and retaining heat within a building and
Oh, wow.
orientation of a building, that sort of thing, that just helps to create a really sustainable
Brilliant.
either home or office. It's been used on all sorts of schemes now. So yeah, it would be great to actually get something fully in that realm to take
Sounds
forward.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think, everybody's keen to kind of reduce costs and that sort of thing in terms of running buildings, homes, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. But, if we can, a fabric first approach, we've always looked at fabric and that sort of thing within QAD as the main approach to solving that problem of
Yeah.
efficiency. But to really push it forward and be able to do a passive house would be great. That would be fantastic.
Brilliant. Oh, well, be great to find out and maybe, as I say,
Yeah.
stick around for the 12 months, see how that's going. And I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now.
Um, I think it's tough, but I think if you've got a good set of people around you and a good network, whether that be within the business or outside of your business, that you can bounce ideas off, and that talking element is
Yes.
again coming back to that. As long as you've got people that you can talk to, sound ideas out with, that's really important. Because in doing that, then again, you're not going to be too hard on yourself.
Yes.
There's ultimately there are going to be ups and downs, and it's never going to be simple. Um, but as long as you sort of are keen to keep moving forward and keep adapting and being resilient to change,
Yep.
that's the main thing. Because in our industry, legislation's changing all the time. That's going to be one of the biggest things we've got to deal with going forward, I think, in terms of meeting new legislation and regulations, competency, that sort of thing. You've got to adapt, you've got to change, and um, as long as you've got a good support base, I think that's a really important thing if you're starting out, if I'm honest.
Yeah. No, 100% is get the right people around you to help and advise.
Yeah.
And I, if you start again, I appreciate the guy started the business, but if you look back over your career in this business, is there anything, if you look back, is there anything significantly you think you do differently?
Um, I'm not sure I would in some ways. I think I've met quite a range of people. I've worked in a couple of different, three, four different practices where I've had different experiences with
Yeah.
different sectors. And I think that is quite useful in that, not to almost pigeonhole yourself too early on. So perhaps consciously I did that. I'm not quite sure if I did or didn't at the time, but having a bit of a range of experience is really helpful because it does allow you to kind of say, well, actually, I'm quite happy where I am now, or you know, if you're not happy as well, try and do something about it, I suppose. But thankfully, I've been really fortunate with the opportunities that I've had from different practices, different people, that I've been able to kind of progress through my career,
Yes.
and have the opportunity to work on different schemes, different things, meet different
Brilliant.
people. So yeah, I think whether that's consciously or subconsciously being able to sort of get that breadth of experience, that's one of the key things I think I've really enjoyed as
Brilliant.
being an architect.
Brilliant. And finally, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that, Nicky?
Um, an 18-year-old me, just be prepared to work hard, I think, which I think I was. But equally, just, don't be afraid to try different things either. Sometimes we can kind of not put ourselves in those situations where we push ourselves to try different things.
Yes.
And as daunting as they are, often you'll find there'll probably be another 10 people in that room that are equally daunted. And,
Yep.
doing the passive house exam the other year, it's a good number of years since I'd done an exam. But pushing yourself to do it and going, actually, I really want to achieve this, and giving it a go has been fantastic. And so, sometimes you've just got to maybe push yourself to try things that you're not comfortable with, and learn from those experiences. If it doesn't work out, don't, there'll be another opportunity in the future. But yeah, don't be too hard on yourself, but try and push yourself to do different things as well.
There's a great quote from Will Smith from many years ago, which was the best things happen on the other side of our comfort zone, which
Yeah. Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah. Yeah. And I think as well, you don't always realize what you can do. So
no,
that's the thing, is actually sometimes things are not as bad as you envisage they might be, public speaking, that sort of thing. I've only recently started doing that sort of thing where I'm giving um presentations to people in terms of a master planning not conference, but seminars to people, and actually I quite enjoy it now. It's quite good. So it's one of those where if you're confident in what you're doing and you know what you're doing, then don't be afraid to try different things as well, and push yourself.
brilliant. Yeah, there's a great acronym for FEAR, FEAR, which we use, which is false expectation appearing real.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
We tip it. I think it was JFK said there's nothing to fear but fear itself, and it is the fear is
yeah,
normally way worse than the actual experience.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, definitely. But again, I think that comes from experience, doesn't it? If you're talking to an 18-year-old me, I'd be going, oh, crikey, what do I do?
I've
So,
got I've got an 18-year-old. I don't think she'd do a lot of public speaking yet, but I think she will. Funny enough.
yeah.
Well, Nicky, it's been absolutely delightful speaking today, and thank
No,
you
thank you.
so much for your time. And for anyone that's interested in contacting you or QAD Architects, what would be the best way to do that?
Go to our website. That's a good means, or just get in touch with myself. My contact details are on our website. So yeah, so please, if anybody has any questions or just wants to have a chat, get in contact with us.
Brilliant. Well, as I say, it'd be great to catch up again in another 12 months or so and see how the work's going in different ways. But for now,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thanks very much, Chris.
Thanks.